G'day, dickheads. It's been a fucking while. Let's have a catch up. So, dickheads, how the fuck is everybody? Hope you're all doing top notch. It's been a little fucking while. Sorry about the lack of videos over the last few weeks. As you know, I fucked off to the UK for the big Vapor Expo in Birmingham. And then after about 10 days over there, flew back to Australia, spent all of about 30 fucking hours in this country, and then off again I went to South Africa for a bit of a fucking shindig thing over there with Sir Vape and hanging out with the bearded Viking, you know, the cunt that makes those bloody awesome little skull addies that I like. Anyway, had a fucking blast, got tons and tons of fucking video footage to edit into a few vlogs, whatever you want to fucking call them. Obviously sort of documenting my stuff and things over in the UK. And I've also got some really fucking interesting footage from South Africa, sitting down with a few shop owners over there, coilers, you know, juice makers and that sort of thing, getting a bit of a feel for the South African scene, because I knew nothing about the South African vape community before I went over there, and I'm sure there's a lot of people like myself that didn't know fucking shit all about it. So yeah, got a bunch of good sort of interviews and stuff to put together into some vlogs. But this little fucking video needed to come first. There's two videos that I need to get done before I get into the editing of those vlogs. First one is this little fucking advocacy information video about South Australia, some devastating news that we need to discuss, and then also the unveiling video for the old Bonza mech fucking kit. There you go, dickheads. It's a quick squiz, but yes, obviously in Birmingham we launched that, we unveiled it. I need to do my video. It's obviously not a fucking review, dickheads. I'm not going to review my own thing, but I need to show you it, tell you what my intentions were and all the rest of it. So that video will be up next after this one. Sit tight. I'm going to go and record that later on this evening, so hopefully tomorrow sometime you will see that little unveiling video. But as I said, first things fucking first, advocacy, dickheads. Before we even touch on that, we've got to have a bloody beer, hey? Fucking shout out to some of my subscribers and my Patreons that came out to Birmingham, the expo there, and handed me a fucking shit ton of beer. I think I walked away from the expo with probably 20 beers, some of which I had to drink while I was there because I couldn't get them all home. Some of them I managed to squeeze back. I can't remember what beers were given to me by what people, so apologies, dickheads, but a shout out to everybody that did bring me beer at expo. This one here came from one of my very generous subs. It's a High Wire West Coast IPA. There we go, High Wire. West Coast Pale Ale, should I say, not an India Pale Ale. West Coast Pale Ale, brewed over in the United Kingdom in Huddersfield. I've had a fair few of these little beers from High Wire. They fucking, or should I say Magic Rock. High Wire is the beer, Magic Rock is the fucking brewery. Definitely do some good fucking tinnies, these cunts. Doesn't really say much about the beer, but it's a fucking delicious pale ale, I have to say, cunts. And cheers to the lovely, generous cunt that gave me this awesome Brewdog beer glass. That's a fucking neat little trick. It's a really fucking well-balanced pale ale, nice and easy drinking. Nice little bit of hoppy sort of flavour there, a little bit more hops than your average pale ale, I would say that. Nice and murky and cloudy. Lots of fucking flavour, tropical fruits. Yeah, slightly, like, you know, West Coast obviously like their fucking hops and shit, so it's not a full-on West Coast IPA, but it's definitely more hoppy than your standard fucking pale ale. Pair it up with a juice, a wee shell. I got myself some Cosmic Supersonic scones here from Dark Star. You cunts know I like a few of their little juices, and yeah, this Supersonic scones taste bang on with fucking scones. It's like that doughy kind of scone sort of taste. Vaping it on the isolation tank from Death Wish Mods. If the camera would focus, there we go. Isolation tank, Death Wish Mods. The drip tip up the top here is from District 5. It's not the most comfortable drip tip, but it looks fucking the tits with this one. Sitting on the Druga Foxy, the Foxy Druga, whatever you want to call it, with the gunmetal fucking bands there, looking very nice with the gunmetal fucking isolation. Anyway, let's fucking pair it up, eh? Yeah, not too bad. I mean, generally I'd go for a more fruity kind of juice to pair with a, a pale ale, but this little bakery number's going pretty well as well. Yeah, those sort of bready notes kind of going nicely with the sort of malty notes of the beer. Anyway, dickheads, as I said, the main reason for this video is obviously just to say, g'day, I'm fucking back, and tell you sort of what's going on over the next few days. But also to really sort of discuss in more detail this South Australian legislation that basically sort of popped up, in terms of it becoming a reality while I was away in the UK. I touched on it briefly in my topside review when I was over in Chiswick. But yeah, unfortunately, didn't really get a chance to go into a lot more detail until now that I'm back in Australia. I've got a chance to sit down and sort of go through this with you. I'm not going to read through the fucking legislation itself. You can go and look at that if you really want to know, word for word legalities of what they put in there. But it's completely devastating. This legislation is literally going to ruin the South Australian industry. It's going to kill it, and not by a little bit, not by it's going to fucking impact some shops and they're going to feel the pressure or they're going to feel a bit of a pinch. This is literally going to shut down every online store that operates in South Australia. Just gone, and every brick and mortar store will be pretty much inoperable. Certainly, I don't know whether it's going to be profitable to even run a brick and mortar store once this legislation comes in. It's pretty fucked up. So to give you a bit of background story, this legislation was proposed probably 2 years ago or something like that now by the previous governments. And basically, we had worked, or the South Australian, vaping industry had got together. A lot of money had been spent by a lot of shops and online retailers and juice makers to basically engage a lobby company and a media firm to negotiate, go in there and actually battle with the government from the inside, rather than jumping up and down and kicking and screaming, but actually engaging a lobby company to get in there, work with the government on tweaking and changing this legislation so that everybody was happy. Obviously, as an industry, we're well, in support of not selling to kids, not selling to under 18s, not vaping, on buses or trains or in school grounds and things like that. All of that, obviously, prior to this legislation, hadn't been regulated. So there was obviously a need for some regulation. But what they originally proposed was going to be devastating. And so through this lobby, negotiation process, that legislation was basically tailored to sort of keep both parties fucking happy. Unfortunately, then the government at the time that had this legislation that we've been working with had a bunch of ministers embroiled in a bit of controversy, and they lost their portfolios, basically meaning they were sort of stripped of their positions as ministers. Now, what that meant is the legislation that they were handling, which was the vaping legislation, was completely tabled and just sort of left. And so, in some ways, at the time, it was sort of good. Oh, we're not going to have any regulations come in. Fast forward to another government obviously being elected, just recently, a change in the House, and now that new government is basically bringing back the original legislation and are completely uninterested in any negotiation whatsoever. Basically uninterested in setting up meetings with the industry experts, trying to negotiate and get this legislation back to a position where everybody can still operate their businesses. Basically, the government has fucking put their hands up and said, no, we're not fucking changing anything. The legislation's coming in as it is, or as it was originally intended, and they're not going to fucking change a thing. So what does that mean? Pretty fucking dire consequences, to be honest, dickheads. So, basically, the legislation that's going to come in, I'm going to sort of read through what Savas Demetrio, who is sort of looks and works with the Australian Vaping Advocacy Trade and Research Association, so Avatar, Australian Vaping Advocacy Trade and Research, sort of an organisation that's been set up to represent the businesses, the juice makers, the people in this industry, and hopefully get into the government and work with them. So Sav has posted back sort of late in last month. I'm just going to sort of go through what he said because I think he kind of sums it up pretty nicely. what's basically happened is this legislation has been passed. The upper house has got a final vote in the lower house, but it's pretty much going to go through, or guaranteed to go through. There's nothing stopping this now. So this legislation is going to come in. It's now going to be up to us to try and reverse it. What that legislation basically entails. This is a definite end to online sales in South Australia. No person in South Australia will be permitted to buy hardware or e-liquids online, either from a business in South Australia or from a business interstate. Any business that sells products to SA customers online will be viciously pursued by the South Australian government, whether they're in South Australia or not. They want to make a mark, and they fully intend to be malicious about it. Basically, the South Australian government is saying, not only are we going to shut down any online sales from companies within South Australia, but if you're in Victoria or New South Wales and you try to sell to South Australians, they're going to basically come after you. Pretty bad. It will not even be possible to run an online business from South Australia, even if you're exclusively selling to customers in other states. Website jurisdiction is a complex and murky area of law, but the position of the SA government is that if a business is operating in South Australia, then their website is bound by South Australian law. We can try and fight that interpretation in court, but the likelihood of success is vanishingly small, and the expense would be hundreds of thousands of dollars. So yeah, even if you're a South Australian online vendor and you think, okay, well, I can't sell to South Australians, no, you're not even able to keep selling to your interstate customers. So basically, it's going to mean that South Australian online stores will be forced to move interstate or out of the country, because they're just not going to be able to operate online at all. And this sort of ties basically in with the South Australian legislation of no online sales for cigarettes. All right, so you can't sell cigarettes online in South Australia. Other states permit online sales of tobacco. South Australia does not. What they're doing is throwing vaping in with the tobacco legislation and saying, no fucking online sales at all for vape products. No businesses in South Australia, whether operating online or in a brick and mortar store, will be allowed to offer free shipping, no free samples, no discounts of any kind, no bundles of any kind, no rewards programs, or any other incentives. The penalties are outrageously harsh, tens of thousands of dollars for each offence. So obviously, in some places around the country, they've had no samples being allowed, which has been sort of kind of remedied by people paying like a membership of $1 a month or whatever, and that giving them access to try juices rather than having free samples. You pay $1 and you can try as much as you like, kind of thing. That's not going to be allowed at all in South Australia. All we're allowed to do is sell products for a fixed price. They must be covered. So if you're a brick and mortar store, everything that you have in your shop will need to be covered, the same as cigarettes are here in South Australia at the moment. So basically behind cupboard doors or little roller shutters or whatever you want to fucking do, everything will need to be covered up. Absolutely no promotional material on display, no posters, no digital or printed juice menus. So you can't even tell customers what the different juices that are available in your fucking store. Other than plain text listings with just the name of the product and the price. So no flavor description. So if your juice is called, fucking Roy's fucking sweet mix, then that's all you're allowed to put on there. You can't say what Roy's sweet mix fucking actually is flavored. You can't say if it's got raspberries or whatever in there. It's going to be pretty much like cigarettes. You need to know your brand and you'll see the price, and that's it. You won't have anything else on there. No flavor descriptions are allowed, and so on. Every law that applies to tobacco will apply to hardware and e-liquids, no exceptions. Obviously, testers will no longer be permitted, and nobody will be allowed to vape indoors at all, not even out the back where customers can't see you. So, yeah, no vaping in the shop for customers or employees or anything. Pretty fucked. So basically, dickheads, that's sort of in a nutshell what's going to happen in South Australia. This is looking like it's going to be about 6 months' time when this legislation comes in. They were initially wanting to bring this in immediately. The only thing that the industry has been able to sort of negotiate out of the government is a 6-month compliance period, so that we can actually essentially fucking pack up sticks and fuck off, because there's just no way that you can operate a brick and mortar store under those conditions. There's literally no way that you can operate an online store, in South Australia anymore. That is, that door is completely fucking shut. So, dickheads, where does that leave us? What do we do? What is the point in this fucking video? Is all hope lost? Well, a fair bit of hope is fucking lost, dickheads. I'll be honest. This is looking pretty fucking bad. There is obviously still a battle, still a fight to be had, and that is what we are going to do. So there's a couple of things that people can do. First thing you can do is write your representatives in South Australia, write your members in Parliament, tell them how this legislation is going to literally cost lives, because there are going to be people that otherwise would have found vaping that are now not going to have access to those products in a store or online. There are going to be customers that probably have started vaping and will probably go back to cigarettes just because it's going to be too hard. You imagine, little old grandma there, who's been going to a brick and mortar store to buy her products or whatever. That brick and mortar store shuts down because they can no longer operate, and she can't buy online. Where is she going to get her products from? She's going to have to go international. What are the chances of your elderly, relative going online and buying, their stuff from the US or the UK or New Zealand? I'm sure there will be some, but I'm sure there'll be a fuck ton that are going to literally just go back to the fucking durries. So this is going to cost people's lives. It's going to cost jobs. It's going to be a lot of people out of work that were working in vape shops that were online that maybe can't move interstate, or for those businesses that don't even move interstate, that just literally pack up and shut up shop. So there's going to be people out of work. There's going to be lost revenue and income, taxes, all the rest of it lost to other markets. South Australia is going to miss out on all of that. It's absolutely fucking daft that the government would take this approach. However, as I said, we are going to try and fight this as best we fucking can. So first thing you can do, write your representatives, as I said, and tell them, how bad this is going to be. Secondly, I'll put a link down below to Avatar's basically mail link. They will keep you up to date with emails or, what's actually happening, both here in South Australia and around the country, because this is going to have a flow-on, or could very easily have a flow-on effect. If South Australia does this, then the federal or the state governments in other parts of Australia will start to look at it and go, oh, well, fucking, they've bloody banned online sales. Oh, yeah, we could do that fucking too. So this is going to have a flow-on effect to possibly outside of Australia as well. So join that mail link for the Avatar. There's also a fucking protest. We are going to have a rally on the steps of Parliament House here in Adelaide on the 29th of November. So yeah, I'll put a link to the Facebook event for that rally. Otherwise, if you're not on Facebook, then 29th of November, the steps of Parliament here in Adelaide, there is going to be a fucking rally. Unfortunately, I can't fucking be there. I'm going to New Zealand for the Oceania Expo. Unfortunately, that's already been booked in prior to this catastrophe and this march and rally being announced. I'd love to fucking be there, but it's literally the day I fly to New Zealand. So I'm going to be over there talking advocacy with some health professionals from New Zealand and other industry advocates. So we'll be doing the advocacy thing, but I won't unfortunately be at the rally. But please, if you're in South Australia, if you're anywhere near Adelaide, get down on the 29th of November to the to Parliament steps and join that fucking rally. As I said, everybody join that mail out link. Write your representatives, and if you're anywhere outside of Australia and you feel like you can fucking just weigh in with a little bit of insight to our derelict fucking government, then I'll put some links down below to members of the parliaments that you can write and tell them exactly what you fucking think about all of this. So yeah, dickhead, sorry about the long waffling, seriously depressing video, but it is part of my job to keep the information flowing, and that's what I've got for you. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. This may even affect myself. I need to actually engage with a lawyer and find out whether or not, me as a reviewer here in South Australia will be affected by this legislation. Hopefully not. I'm pretty sure it probably won't, because I don't sell or distribute or do anything like that from here in South Australia. But you never know this fucking government and what they might decide to go after. So yeah, it's pretty bad. It's literally going to mean the death of this industry if this is not fucking stopped. But the fight goes on, dickheads. There is obviously hope that at a federal level, the legislation, if it goes through, and it pretty much will go through in its current form, will absolutely destroy this industry. But if the federal government comes in and basically brings in its own regulations, say legalizing nicotine and some positive legislation for vaping, then that will supersede and overrule the state's legislation. How long that federal legislation takes, we don't fucking know. It's certainly not going to be in time to save this industry, if this legislation goes through at its expected date, which will be, as I said, come into effect in 6 months' time. There's no way the federal government's going to get its finger out of its fucking ass in that time period and bring in, basically its own ruling that will essentially save the industry here in SA. So, yeah, as I said, if it does go down here in South Australia, the only hope that we have after that is that the federal government will overrule it. But it's not fucking good, dickheads. Yeah, it's very devastating. So, with that, dickheads, on that negative note, I'm going to sign off. As I said, links down below to what you can do and how you can get involved. And I'll obviously continue to be talking about this in plenty of hardware videos as they come up. As I said, next video I want to get out is the Bonza unveiling, and then after that, we'll just get stuck into these vlogs because I said I'm very excited to show you all of the fun traveling that I got to do. It was a fucking blast. Anyway. You cunts know the fucking deal. Sub me fucking dicks off. Sub me fucking tits off. Stay off the bloody stinkies. I don't care how it is you're fucking doing it. In South Australia, it's going to be tough to keep off the fucking durries, but where there's a will, there's a way. The South Australian government cannot regulate international purchases. So just to confirm, if I haven't actually said it so far, but if you're a South Australian and you are concerned about getting products, you will be able to buy online internationally from places like New Zealand, the US, the UK. They can't regulate the international market as much as they fucking think they can, fuck us here in South Australia. Those that have seen the light and found the life-saving technology of vaping will still find a fucking way. But yeah, it's certainly not going to be fucking easy. Anyway, cheers, dickheads. Cheers for tuning in, and cheery fucking oath. And then an expo thing, fucking vlog shit. I don't know what I'm fucking talking about. I've lost me bloody words. Fucking...